Hi, welcome back. I had one of the subscribers ask for some help in the kitchen with some signs commonly used in the kitchen and baking and cooking. So here we are in my kitchen. So let's start out with kitchen. You take your left hand here, I'm right hand, so my dominant hand here. Take a K, kitchen, kitchen. Right, and you can see really quickly why, because the sign for cook is like this. Okay, so we have kitchen, cook. I've also seen kitchen signed like this. Okay, the cooking room, right? Think of bedroom. The cooking room is also called the kitchen. So in this video, we're going to give you some signs for cooking and in the kitchen. We'll give you some practice sentences. So if you're looking for a specific sign in the kitchen, look down below in the description, the time code, and just fast forward to the sign you're looking for. Otherwise, let's get you educated on ASL signs in the kitchen. Here's one of the fun ones when it comes to being in the kitchen. All right, this one is the sign to pour, but let's give you some examples. We've got to pour, we've got pour, and I might even pour. So how do you differentiate the right sign for the right thing, right? Big picture, pour. Okay, it is the movement physically to pour. Do you see that? You pour it, so I might sign this. Oh, would you please pour, okay, this cup of water? Pour. Okay, now what about this cup? Right, here's a small little kid's cup, right? So that cup of water is going to be poured. Do you see that difference there? Pour. And then I may wake up for breakfast. It's time to eat. Okay, I'm going to have pancakes. If I poured this like this or like this, I would drench my pancakes in syrup. So one of the great things about American Sign Language is how much your hands can communicate the nuance of the sign pour. Pour, take a Y hand like this, tilt up, imagine it's just coming out just like this, to pour. So 3 ways to sign pour based on their use. So here's our next sign, boil, okay? To boil or boil, all right? See how my fingers are moving like this? It's like the bubbles as they're bubbling up in the water. Boil, okay? Boil. Our next sign is to bake. Bake. Imagine the top of your oven, right? You pull that door down and you bake. My dominant hand, flat, thumb extended. Imagine I'm putting that pizza, the cookies, the cake, the rolls to bake, right? Bake. Oh, Mom, I'm so excited. We're baking cookies. See that? To bake. Now there are some signs in the kitchen where there's no sign. Let me give you some examples. How about to fry? Like to fry a chicken, fry French fries. Fry is just finger spelled. F-R-Y. Fry. How about some ingredients? Baking soda. You're going to spell all that out. B-A-K-I-N-G, soda, S-O-D-A. Same thing, baking powder, you would sign baking, spell it, and then P-O-W-D-E-R. How about in the bread business? You're going to sign yeast, Y-E-A-S-T, okay? So for some people who make bread, okay, whoa, yeast is important, okay, but I'm finger spelling the yeast. Now here's a fun example. We're going to use the signs for cut, okay? Cut, slice, dice, to chop. So here we go. Cut. What kind of cutting is that? If I have a knife that cuts like this, that might be bread. It could be some meat, right? I'm doing this. So think of a knife like that, right? Sometimes a butcher's knife, it's cutting. All right, you see how, so you can see how it cuts easily, right? How about if I'm chopping up vegetables? right? That might be more of a knife like this, right? As I'm chopping, right? So you have chopping, right? This is a cut. This is a cut. How about a really small dice? Do you see how the shoulders came up? I'm doing them lengthwise and then this wise. There's cut as well, right? So again, I love that about ASL, is you can take a word, but the hands describe so much more about the action. All right, let's stay in the baking category, right? We're going to melt. Melt. I want you to see that hand. That thumb, right? Imagine it coming from a solid to a liquid. So for example, right? What do we have here? We have butter. Butter. So you might say, hey, before you put in the eggs, right? What do? You melt the butter. Now I introduced some new signs, all right? Before, or before. I've seen it either way. Hand this way. I'm pulling behind me before. Before you cook, before you bake, melt. From a solid to a liquid, you can just see that happening, right? Melt the what? The butter. Melt the butter, please. All right, you're doing great. How about perhaps some of the most common spices that you have in your kitchen? Right? Oh, please give me the what? Salt. Salt. Two hand, but the fingers are somewhat close together. My dominant hand taps the salt. Salt. All right? My second, probably most common ingredient would be black pepper. Pepper. Take an F hand like this, once, twice. Pepper. How about sugar? I've seen a couple of ways to do sugar, right? We have sugar, two fingers off the bottom of the chin. Sugar. Sugar. Okay. Ooh, that is too much sugar. Right? Too much. And sugar. I've also seen this. More commonly, this is the sign for sweet. But I've seen people use it for sugar as well. Okay? And then a third way I've seen is sugar and the little granules. Right? Imagine the granules that you're sprinkling in. Right? Sugar, and sugar. Right? Depends on your region and depends who's signing. All right? That'll help you know sugar. And we showed you this one earlier, but in all your baking, right? So much of your pastries and your breads and your pastas, right? You need what? Eggs. Eggs. Can you see that shell cracking? Right? You hit the side of the bowl. Egg. Okay. Ooh. That egg that I just cracked, that yolk is really what? Orange. If you're really into chickens, you'll look at yolks being from yellow all the way over to orange. Okay? Eggs. Eggs. Now here's the sign for measure. All right? Imagine a ruler. Okay? A ruler, right? To measure. Now in cooking, you're measuring what? We often have a spoon. Here's the spoon. Two fingers together. Just like add soup out of a bowl to your mouth. That's the sign for spoon. Let's also give you the sign for cup. Cup. Right? Cup. Now, a measuring cup, right, might come in different sizes. 1/2, 3/4, 2/3. Okay, you get the idea. I've just violated a rule of numbers. Right? Typically, when you're signing numbers, you're facing them to who's looking at you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. But when we're doing fractions in cooking, you see how that worked? I pulled it back to me. 1/2, 2/3, 3/4. That's how you sign fractions, right? Cup. Oh, give me 3/4 of a cup. 3/4. All right, 3/4. Now let's talk about the spoons, right? I've got a spoon. I need a what? TBSP. For you chefs out there, TBSP tablespoon compared to a TSP, teaspoon. Right? I might want a half teaspoon, right? 3/4 of a tablespoon. You get the idea. All right, the measuring cup, measuring spoon, and then the fraction. 1/4, 1/2, 3/4. You get the idea. That's how you'll talk about measuring with ASL. All right, next let's move to classifiers here in the kitchen. All right, here's a classifier. Okay, this indicates size. So for example, I've got two different kinds of plates here, right? 1 and 2. Now, in ASL, the word plate, right, comes along with the size. This plate, right, is signed, it's about that size. So here's the classifier, kind of like a C hand, but just my index and my thumb that expands out or contracts based on the size. So that plate there, my dinner plate, is signed like that, right? It approximates the size of the plate, right? So my small cup, do you see how my shoulders came up? My body gets smaller? That's a small cup, right? A cup like that size. Now if I've really got a huge cup, right? My shoulders went back. Here's my cup classifier hand. That's a big cup, that's a mug. That's a big old mug. That's how classifiers work here in the kitchen. How about to blend, right? Imagine, right, it spins, okay? You've got to blend the sugar first. There's the sign first. Hey, wait a minute. Blend the sugar first, okay? To blend, spinning around. Think of a tornado, right? Inside that blender, to blend, to blend. And here's one, right? Eggs, you're cooking. You do what with this? You got it? That spatula, that turner, come under the egg, flip it over. So in this case, please pass me the blue. Got it, there you go. Under and flip over. Under and flip over. Okay, let's move to a grate. G-R-A-T-E, right? You're going to grate a potato. It might be a little different, right? This kind of a grater. I'll take a potato, right? Potato. So the sign would be, right? And that can work either for potato or cheese. Now, if you want a different kind of grater, for example, right? You might sign that one. You've got the cheese, the item here, and you're coming right along your hand to grate it, okay? Please grate the cheese, carefully, right? To grate, to grate. Now some signs reflect the action, right? Really easy to see. How about bread? Okay, when you make bread, what do? You knead. Grab it and come up. Grab it and come up. You're kneading, right? Bread, okay? Sometimes my hands get so tired from kneading bread. To knead, to knead. Let's go back into potatoes, for example. I'm going to mash them, right? I might have a device like this, right? Imagine that there's a potato there. I'm going to make mashed potatoes. I am mashing. This is the movement to come down and to mash that potato, right? I like onions and cheese and salt and pepper with what? My mashed potatoes with lots and lots and lots of butter and milk. There's all kinds of science we threw in there, right? For a great way to make mashed potatoes. All right, let's stick with some desserts. How about like cinnamon rolls, right? You spread out the dough. You're putting on butter, sugar. Cinnamon we abbreviate, C-I-N-N, okay? Cinnamon, I sprinkle it around and I might roll the dough. See what I'm doing here? Imagine a cinnamon roll is much bigger. I'm getting to roll that forward, right? Another way I've seen sign is to roll it. But this, to me, is almost more of a croissant, right? A much finer. See how that one goes like this as opposed to this? So think of rolling a cinnamon roll, right? A croissant roll, much tighter and finer of that roll. Now, what do we all have to do when we're making food, right? We stir. We stir, right? Imagine that bowl. You've got a wooden spoon, some kind of a spoon, and you stir, and really, depending upon the food, you can stir or you can stir. See how the hand slows down, the head's going, right? Stirring, be careful, stir, right? Or if I want to beat an egg, go ahead, stir it. And again, that's one word, the signs define the nuance. Let's turn on the stove. We have a temperature we're going to need. Think of a thermometer. My non-dominant hand, my dominant hand goes up and down, up and down. That'll tell you the temperature, okay? Oh, go ahead. Turn on, temperature 350. Please turn the oven on to 350, okay? Temperature I need 425, 350, 175. Go back and look at another video on numbers. So there are some of the signs in the kitchen. Remember one thing, finger spelling always works, right? Many of the movements replicate the action, but this will get you going with American Sign Language as you're cooking away. Thanks.